Hello team, welcome to another ATP Geopolitics video with myself, Jonathan, MS Pearce. Ukraine War News Update, first part there for the 31st, New Year's Eve, 31st of December 2024. I'm just out in a second, so I've got to do this fairly rapidly. And there may be quite a long time before I do another update today, if I do one at all, out for the day. So let's start with the Ukrainian general staff figures for the Russian losses for the day before. All the usual caveats apply, of course. And you can find them in the description to the video below. 1,610 personnel lost. That's an incredibly high number. By the way, yesterday I said Dell's stats hadn't been updated since the 25th. They had been. They just hadn't been synced. There was a OneDrive issue. So those stats at Dell updates, they are all there for you to see. And let's see the latest. So I think we just dropped now below the 7-day rolling average record, because in the last week, even though yesterday was a huge set of losses in the personnel department, 2010, the last week has been slightly less than was previous as a record last week for the 7-day rolling average. But yeah, they're all up to date and looking tickety-boo. So 5 tanks is just below the daily average. 27 troop-carrying AFVs is above the daily average, as is 34 artillery systems. Some fairly good stats there. 75 vehicles with fuel tanks, a pretty high number in that category, and 1 piece of special equipment. So some typically challenging numbers for the Russians. They are losing a lot of people, losing a lot of equipment. No Andrew Perpetual loss list so far today. So we'll move on to some personnel issues here. We hear that on the December 26th, Deputy Commander of the Engineering Troops of the Russian Armed Forces, Major General Konstantin Shmeshko, was killed. So that is a fairly high-ranking official taken out in the war. I don't know where, I don't know how. Also, we hear, and I said this the other day, that one of the Russian Vorenka's mill bloggers was reporting that the 810th 810th Naval Infantry Brigade, so Marines, had been rotated out of Kursk. They'd taken a mauling in Crimea area, then a mauling in Kursk, and now you may see that as a complete disaster. They've been rotated out. Actually, some people saying they've ceased to exist. Several sources report that the Russian 810th Marine Infantry Brigade, says Andy Schneider, which was constantly carrying out frontal attacks with heavy losses, has ceased to exist. In other words, this former Russian elite brigade has been wiped out and destroyed in the Kursk region. There were claims that they are rehabilitating, but only over here in Pukovo. So they've been taken from one side of the sector after being obliterated and taken to the other side of the sector, just behind the contact line, to Pukovo to do their rehabilitation. So that's pretty insane. Okay. What else do we hear? So there were claims that the Russians took down an F16 last week, and I said, as only a slight rumor, just be really careful of these rumors. I doubt it's true. Max 24 reports fighter bomber who's pretty reliable, saying, by the way, what's the news about the downed F16? The BSers who are knocking down their apologies, have they bought it, or is it still unclear? And I think that is a bit of, as Max 24 says, some kind of negative mood in the Russian ranks. I think that is pouring scorn on those who spread the rumors of an F-16 being shot down. That's how I interpret that. So I think that's a Russian admitting that was indeed BS. We've got Russian Marine Brigade has probably been destroyed and another badly damaged in Russia's Kursk region. This is Forbes kind of going back on. So actually, I should have done that after this one. Forbes has released an article saying, well, one Marine Brigade has been taken out in Kursk and another one has been badly damaged. Quote, 4 months after racing to Kursk region in western Russia to meet the surprise Ukrainian invasion of that border region, the Russian Navy's battered 810th Naval Infantry Brigade is finally calling it quits, at least for a little while, writes David Axe. He points out that the brigade of 2,500 people is being relocated to the village of Pukovo, which is located not far from the front line, and at the same time the village is within the reach of important armour of the Ukrainian troops. So yeah, they have, as mentioned, taken a mauling. Right, in that area of Kursk, Lugov, Kursk region, something hit a gathering of Russian military personnel, according to Alexei Kovalenko, head of the NSDC, that's Disinformation Center for Strategic Communication. So an organization that is seeking to disabuse people of disinformation. Anyway, there is a Russian video recording an incident in Lvov. Lvov was hit recently when a building was taken out with officers in, including, I think, the deputy commander of a unit up there, who was killed along with 7 other officers. That was Lvov. That's just north of, in fact, it's probably, if I show you this map, you'll get a sense of where it is. So Lvov is, I don't know if it's actually on this map, but it might be just north of here. Yeah, so basically just up here is Lvov. And then you got Rilsk and Lvov, and then you got Kursk city itself, just north of there. But it is within range of HIMARS strikes and whatnot. So HIMARS strike recently took out the building and some officers. Now it's been hit again. He says a lot of people, guys, in a bunker here. So let's read what he says. Looking at this burning building, he says, you can't see anything, but it's terrible. The fire started. The guys are all in the bunker. A lot of people.
Ничего не видно, но жесть, короче. Пожар. Ничего не видно, но жесть, короче.
But it's terrible. It's terrible. A lot of people in the bunker. So I don't know if they are all dead, but anyway, a fairly serious hit in Lvov. Tim White says Russian city of Lvov was heavily shelled today. Kursk's acting regional governor Alexander Hinstein said there's no news of damage or casualties in what was described as a mixed drone and MLRS attack. Despite the Kursk governor saying there's no damage to Lvov, it's clear a huge fire broke out in the town. Russian censorship laws mean the video is blurred and the location's not been published, although we did see it clearly in that other video. Then I told you yesterday about 2 electric trains being taken out, or 2 locomotives being taken out in Moscow. I don't know if this is a separate one, because this is Russia locomotive set on fire at 2:15 a.m. in Dmitrov, Moscow region. And that was last night. That was posted. So there might have been another train set on fire there. This is the image I showed you. It looks like to be the same picture on the right there, so I don't know. Anyway, Moscow suburbs, Lobnya and Dmitrov. So yeah, I think it's the same. Unknown arsonist set fire to 2 electric trains, according to Russian media. So just a bit more information on what I said previously. The incidents occurred just hours apart. They targeted the most critical part, the trains themselves. While the train in Lobnya self-extinguished quickly, situation in Dmitrov was much worse. The driver's cabin was completely destroyed, forcing the train out of service. So there seems to be a lot of these incidents happening. Now, another gas station burning in Grozny. I say another because I reported some time ago, I showed an incredible bit of footage of a petrol station exploding in Chechnya. The same has happened again. I'm not quite sure why, but Tim White says the fact that the blazes in Chechnya raises my eyebrows. Following the shooting down of the passenger jet 5 days ago, no calls have been given to the gas station in Grozny happily burning away, but no explosions were heard and some residents were evacuated. A really serious fire at a petrol station again there. And then another near catastrophe in Russia's aviation industry, says Tim White, even without another shoot down. Shaky video, but you're looking at a UTAir AN-24 aircraft which suffered engine failure during landing at the Yamal-Nenets region. The pilot managed to land safely with no injuries, but it's in a bunch of trouble there. So more woes for the Russian aviation industry. Then we go on to distant strikes. Right. No infographic on the strikes on Ukraine, and there were Kinzhal ballistic missiles sent into Kiev. I think they were shot down for the second time this morning. Ballistic missiles fired at Ukraine's capital, and explosions heard in Kiev region. I think they were shot down. Also, there were drones, but I don't know how many. Most of the news was about the Ukrainian strikes last night on Russia, and I think we're starting to see what I've been warning is going to happen. Like, assuming that the Ukrainians were telling the truth about their scaled up manufacture of drones and missiles, we were due to see some large scale strikes at different places, or lots and lots at the same place. Actually, we saw a number of places hit last night by the Ukrainians, and the details will be emerging of this throughout the day. So not a crazy amount of detail right now, but a bit, and some very interesting things. First of all, so last night, while I was still awake, nighttime, evening time, my time, which would be, Ukraine's a couple of hours in front, so probably around, what do we have? Midnight, yeah, just past midnight, almost 1 o'clock local time, Crimean time. Crimea was attacked, and it was attacked in several waves, I believe. Ukrainian maritime drones currently attacking the Russian warm water naval base in Sevastopol. In Crimea, powerful explosions are reported, and in fact, there were, I think, attacks all over Crimea. Again, explosions in occupied Sevastopol, says now reports. Russian monitoring channels are also reporting naval drone activity on the western coast of occupied Crimea. So that was last night. So what do we have? Explosions reported in occupied Sevastopol. So there were at least 2 waves, it appears. Russian monitoring channels confirm that occupied Crimea is being attacked by Ukrainian drones. The Russian installed governor of Sevastopol claims the loud sound that was heard was the air defense systems on duty intercepting and destroying 2 aircraft-type drones over the Black Sea. New explosions in occupied Sevastopol near Kazachia Bay. And then there were explosions in Bryansk, and then more coming from Sevastopol, Oriol, Smolensk. Okay, so let's get into a little bit more detail. We're going to stay in Sevastopol area where, as you can see there, a big explosion was caught on camera, somewhere around there. Crimean Wind Channel says that we are informed that a Russian Tor air defense missile system was destroyed in the area of Kazachia Bay in Sevastopol area there. So air defense taken out. Then we hear this, and there's quite a lot of footage coming out of this. So Ukraine shot down a helicopter with a USV, an unmanned surface vehicle. So one of these Magura V5s with manpads on the drone has shot down a helicopter and has also damaged another one. So Andrew Perpetually being very acerbic here. Russia isn't good at war. They are so ridiculously bad at it. They need a new hobby. Imagine spending actual in real life money buying this trash heap Russian weaponry, because there are people who did that. They actually went out and bought weapons from Russia on purpose. Imagine being that guy, so on and so forth. But yeah, so he was reacting to the Russian helicopters being taken out by these newly created USVs with manpads on them. So as you can imagine, because this is a world first, essentially, there's lots of talk about this morning in a number of different places. So Ukraine's GUR has achieved a world first, says Null reports, by destroying an airborne target with a Magura V5 drone equipped with missiles during a battle near Cape Tarkankut, Crimea. That's on the western side of Crimea. That's that corner that sticks out. R-73 short-range air-to-air missiles took down a Russian Mi-8, with another helicopter also hit. As someone says, Ukraine has been trying to pull this off for a while. Good to see they finally succeeded. Who knows, perhaps the next one will be a Su-35 from Belbek. I guess you just keep driving these things around, waiting to, obviously they don't have endless fuel, but waiting for aircraft to pass nearby. HUR reports a Magura V5 surface drone has brought down a Red Army Mi-8 helicopter, says Wall Translated. This isn't about picking on small nations with a few million people and boasting about your might. You've messed with the wrong ones, says Dmitry. So lots of people are pretty happy about this. The Russians have lost some kit there, but the Ukrainians have also evolved in their capabilities, and that's pretty important. And that means that those aircraft will be reluctant to fly so close, will be reluctant to try and take out these drones if those drones can take them out, and it will change their aerial behavior, I'm sure. So this is significant. The Russians have less and less reason to be hanging around Crimea, and that's all good for the Ukrainians. Now, here's Max 24 quoting some Russian sources saying Novorossiysk is being paid attention. So that's the naval base, the new naval base, if you like, because they moved from Sevastopol down to Novorossiysk on the Black Sea coast, is under attack. Bryansk, danger from drones there as well. Oriol region, there were explosions. And nearby Bryansk as well. Also a big drone attack on Oriol region of Russia. Various drones have been heard, but then came one very big hit in the area caught on CCTV. So you can see that on CCTV, a big explosion somewhere in Oriol. Again, don't know what's been hit. Breaking news, Russian media reports a Ukrainian drone strike on a Druzhba oil pipeline. So this was struck the night before as well, and there was a building struck, and some people saying, well, actually most of the important stuff is underground. So what you want is you want to hit the buildings where it's, you know, it's not so important hitting the pipes. You want to hit all the intricate infrastructure around that. But I don't know. I'd imagine you want to hit everything, and there could well have been pipes that were actually hit at the Druzhba oil pipeline in Bryansk region. So good news for Ukrainians there. Then we've heard that Smolensk was hit last night. A oil depot there. After the attack, a fire broke out at an oil depot at the Yurtsevo district in the Smolensk region. The governor there claims that all the drones were successfully shot down, and the fire was caused by falling debris, of course. So, you know, nothing like... well, I don't know if that definitely is the oil depot there, but nothing like claiming the drones were shot down, but they just so happened to fall down on the very target they were aiming for. So Tim White then reports, as many are, there's lots of footage coming out from Smolensk. Ukraine's hit another oil depot in Russia this morning. That's the Smolensk region. Another video of the burning of the oil depot there, and more photos have come out from that scene. It's northeast of the Smolensk city and about 350 kilometers north of the Ukrainian border. And then finally a bit more footage here and some discussion from Euromaidan Press. Russian news Telegram channel reported referring to local residents at oil depot in Yurtsevo has been attacked. The head of the district confirms the information about the attack on a facility of the fuel and energy complex. Smolensk Oblast's governor confirmed a drone attack on the oil depot and claimed that it all was shot down. But debris caused a fire, which is almost universally the case when Russian regional heads report on Ukrainian drone attacks, even when they were obviously successful, says Euromaidan Press. So that is just a small snapshot, I think, and I hope, of the strikes of the Russians, or strikes of the Ukrainians on the Russians. There's still more detail needed of Russian strikes on Ukraine, but I think last night was much more about the Ukrainian activity inside Russia. So good to see some successes there. Russians, moving on to other bits and pieces, PS01 says Russians report that Ukraine will attempt, and they've been saying this a lot recently, another invasion at the junction of Kursk and Belgorod. So this is, if you imagine the Kursk invasion area, the Kursk sector and the Kharkiv sectors, so you've got Lipsy and Vovchansk, somewhere between there. It is claimed, the Russians are claiming that Ukrainians are going to attack there in the next 7 days with 20,000 soldiers. I guess we'll have to wait to see if that's true. So this is the area where the Russians have attacked down into Ukraine, and up here is where the Ukrainians have attacked into Russia, and somewhere between the two is where the Russians are claiming the Ukrainians are going to attack. The enemy, that's the Ukrainians, has amassed a fist of up to 20,000 military personnel who arrived from training in the West, as well as those withdrawn from the DPR. I would, of course, very much like to believe that the Belgorod section has been reinforced, says this Russian. I doubt the Ukrainians have that many, but who knows, in reserve. Russia plans to forgive loans for 411,000 soldiers amid soaring battlefield losses, according to UK intelligence. In other words, they need boots on the ground themselves, and the Russian forces face 1,532 casualties daily in Ukraine as an average. Kremlin seeks to bolster morale by writing off loans for thousands of soldiers. This is being reported by UK intelligence as well. Where is that here? So as Tim here says on Blue Sky, Putin is paying Russia's debts to invade Ukraine. It's a kind of a real life Squid Game. So if any of you have seen the South Korean TV show Squid Game, this basically, in fact, the second series is out. This is what the premise of it is: people get into debt and then they go into this kind of battle royale. Last person standing wins money to kind of pay off their debts. In late November 2024, Russia passed a law that would allow military personnel who signed up after 1st of December 2024 to have their loan debt written off. Says the UK intelligence. The write-off would cover loans of up to 10 million rubles, approximately $94,400, and would also apply to spouses. This is in addition to the loan repayment holidays for Russian servicemen program. The independent Russian media organization Mediazona reports that 411,000 repayment holidays for mortgages and personal loans have been taken up since October 2022. Wow. So this is again going to be costing the Russian economy, if you like. Yeah, or maybe not. Maybe it was costing whoever holds those debts. On 30th of December, 189 Ukrainian prisoners of war, so that's yesterday, returned home for the new year. That's really good news. Some lovely scenes, lovely videos coming out from this. Many of the released prisoners had spent over 2.5 years in Russian captivity. The defenders have acute chronic illnesses, consequences of mine explosive injuries, and severe wounds. Just incredible to see people come home to their loved ones. Some lovely video of people crying, speaking to their family on the phone for the first time in years. Okay, Dimitri from War Translated says, according to data from Russian police, and I don't know what I feel about this. Let me know what you think. I mean, again, it's probably the application of consequentialist moral ethics, which is where the consequences of something obtain the moral value. So you can excuse something horrible if it brings about something of a greater good, right? You see this a lot in moral philosophizing. According to data from Russian police, the largest single transfer of fraudsters by Russians in 2024 amounted to 180 million rubles, $1.6 million, reportedly sent by a single pensioner. $1.6 million. The Russian economy is expected to lose approximately 1 trillion rubles in a year due to fraudsters' activities. And then Dmitry goes on to say, despite efforts by banks to combat fraud, Russians remain highly susceptible to scams, with the stolen funds allegedly being used to buy drones for the Ukrainian armed forces and other activities. So this could well be largely Ukrainians systematically defrauding Russian civilians in order to generate money to pay for Ukrainian drones. So you could argue an evil for a greater good, but then the question is that a greater good, and is it fair to punish the Russian society for the ills of the Russian government, etc., etc., etc. I mean, lots of moralizing one could do there, but that appears to be happening, and it will be to the benefit of Ukraine. Okay, Ukraine's exports surged to $41 billion in 2024, marking a 13% increase compared to last year. So that's really good. Growth was largely fueled by the revival of seaport operations, through the Black Sea, with maritime freight volumes rising to 87 million tons despite the Russian attack. So they've done a really good job, the Ukrainians, along with people like actually the British are largely responsible, and Norwegian as well. Norwegians for maritime assistance. We're head of the Maritime Coalition with Norway, I believe, and we have been helping with insurance through kind of Lloyd's and other London-based maritime insurers to open up that pathway, that route down the coastlines of the Black Sea and out the Bosphorus Straits that has basically been a lifeline for the Ukrainian economy. It's incredibly important. That's why you saw Russia spend an awful lot of time trying to hit Odessa, trying to hit Ishmael and Reni in the Danube River, these ports that help Ukraine to essentially make money and keep their economy afloat. Pun not intended, but apt. Latest on the Baltic cable saga. So as the Finns find 100-kilometer drag marks on the seabed, it all points to deliberate sabotage. Estonian official has said, absolutely right here, if you're dragging an anchor, it can't be that you don't notice it because the ship would go off course. It's not possible. In other words, if you're dragging an anchor for 100 kilometers, you would know you're dragging an anchor, and the only reason you'd be doing that is to try and cut the cable. So if they can find an anchor and they can piece it together with the Eagle S, then they know that the Eagle S has been on purpose trying to cut those cables, and then they can do that ship in. And the question is, what next? Like I asked previously, which is, okay, if we know that the Russians did this and it's beyond any reasonable doubt, then what do you do with that information? What does Finland do with that? Do they go to war with Russia? This is, I think, an act of war. That is an act of sabotage. Okay, it's not killing a human, but that those kind of comms being taken out could end up resulting in someone dying as a result of X, Y, Z. It's a bit like hospitals being attacked by cyber warfare. It's the same as bombing them if you're going to functionally take out the hospital. And I would argue that is just an obvious act of war What do we do with that? What does Finland do with that? This is why people are calling for Article 4 to be triggered, which is getting together and talking about whether this does trigger Article 5, which is getting together and defending the nation, in this case Finland or Estonia, being attacked by Russia. I'd imagine we at least need to be discussing this in a very formal manner, which will itself act as a deterrence against Russia, and raises the kind of DEFCON level, if you like. Let me know what you think. Anyway, that's enough from me. Thank you very much for watching. Please like, subscribe, and share. There will be lots of information coming out today. I will not be able to report on it, annoyingly, for you guys, because I'll be out of the office, so to speak. Yeah, keep an eye on those socials. I've got lists on Twitter and Blue Sky. You can check out and try and find out what is going on for your good selves. In the meantime, take care, and I'll speak soon.